Okay, she said she's going to get on, so.
Okay, Hare Krishna again, dear devotees. Shikshashtaka Prabhu, Sankirtana Prabhu, glad to see you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, here's Zoe is coming on too.
Okay.
Hope she'll turn on her camera. Zoe, can you hear me?
Yep,
Oh, there
I
you
can
are.
hear you. There I am.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Have you ever met Leo Bamir?
I don't think so.
And this is Sankirtan here, Sankirtan Prabhu. He's a Brajabasi from time immemorial from New Vrindavan, a scholar and an author of several books. And so Zoe is one of the our regular participants at the Kirtan Center. You can see the deities behind her. Those are the deities in the Kirtan Center. They're not actually there, but this is Zoom, so you can put whatever in background you want. But yeah, she and I actually went to the No Kings protest in June and in October. They had about 10,000 people in October. It was like even bigger.
Bigger, so, definitely bigger.
Definitely bigger. It was really enlivening to see that. Of course, you have to have some organizing in between those things. Otherwise, it's just like fireworks. You see a bunch of people, boom, and then you think everything's good now. No, but you have to actually kind of infiltrate the political process and start to try to influence people and call your representatives and this and that, get people to vote and everything. So anyway, we're going to allow Lyubomir to present an introduction here, and then we can get started. So go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Lyubomir. I'm from Chisinau, Moldova. It's a country near Ukraine. We have a lot of connections with Ukraine. Odessa, city of Odessa is 200 kilometers from the city I live. So the war in Ukraine is it's the war that we feel here as well, and I think not many people in the West, not many devotees in the West know that more than 50 Ukrainian Vaishnavas were already killed in this war of terror waging by Demon Putler, and these are their photos. They're taken from a Facebook group called Spiritual Matter. It's also in English language, so if anybody wants to read more about what's happening in Ukraine with Ukrainian devotees, I recommend you to find this group Spiritual Matter. So what happened on December 3rd? You all know that President of Russia, this Demon Putler, he went to India, and the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, he gave him a present, Bhagavad Gita. So it wouldn't be a problem, if it was only published in state media, but the problem appeared when ISKCON's official body, official organization, published the same photo on Facebook page and also on the website. And for me, as well as for lots of Ukrainian devotees, it was a big shock. How come ISKCON publishes photo of a demon, of a person, of an international criminal who kills devotees, who killed more than 50 devotees, who bombed 4 temples in Ukraine. What is his photo doing on official ISKCON website, on official ISKCON resources. And we were shocked, and Ukrainian devotees wrote a lot of comments. For example, one of them, why ISKCON News didn't write how Russian soldiers are killing devotees on the occupied territories and how the temples are being destroyed. And many other devotees also wrote their anger, expressed their total, lack of understanding what's happening, what is, the editorial staff of ISKCON News thinking about when it published the photo of killer of more than 50 devotees on its website and on Facebook page. And I've posted my outrage that again explaining that more than 50 devotees were killed and 4 temples were bombed, and that it's just a complete shame, total disregard of Ukrainian Vaishnava society that is suffering every day due to daily bombings and terror of this criminal. Due to this criminal, what is his photo doing here? And in my discussions with devotees, we have a whole kind of document with typical I would say neophyte Kanishta ideas where devotees justified this publication. And some of them, just to give you a hint what we are going to talk about, some of these justifications were that we should hate the sin, not the sinner. Demon Putler is like Jagai and Madhai. We need to help him like Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada authorized to distribute books to everyone, no matter demon or not. If no sinner should touch Bhagavad Gita, then how can we distribute books? That Ukrainian devotees lost their lives as soldiers, not as civilians. So Demon Putler is not to blame here. The demons are on all sides. That supporting killings from a safe distance is immoral, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta disciples preach to people in Third Reich era Germany. And I had discussions where where I presented counter arguments and explained why these positions are wrong. So what we are going to do today, we are going to discuss these talking points, these arguments together with all of you, and I will also present my arguments. But before we started, I would suggest we begin with kind of epilogue or forward word. It's
prologue.
From Srimad. Sorry?
They call it prologue.
Prologue. Epilogue, it's at the end, yeah. Thanks. So it's from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 9:25. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotee is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. So this is, something for us to get inspired before we start discussing this topic. So one of the first and most common argument was that we should hate the sin, not the sinner. Right? So Shikshashtaka Prabhu.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Yeah. Maybe you could take the text down, and we can just do that separately from our own viewpoint. There you go, because it makes it more interesting for people who are watching. Okay, hate the sin and not the sinner. So that was just one statement by somebody. I won't even mention his name, but he said, "Hare Krishna, hate the sin, not the sinner." That's a Christian term, I believe, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
so
actually-
As a comparable, in the same logic that they're using, there's also a saying with addiction where we hate the addiction but not the addict. Addict meaning we accept a natural inherent flaw within that person, and that it's something beyond they have control over, and that they're redeemable. That is the assumption.
Yeah. Sankirtana Prabhu, can you maybe start? What do you think
Well,
about this saying?
Krishna, at the beginning of the Battle of Kurukshetra, didn't tell Arjuna, well, just hate the sin, but not the sinner. Krishna encouraged Arjuna to fight in the battle. So Arjuna actually wanted to walk away. And also, you have the original source of the conflict, you might say, in the Mahabharata. If devotees who are saying this, it's a very dismissive attitude. Devotees shouldn't be dismissive. And devotees who are saying this don't really have a very firm grasp of the philosophy. Because if you look at the disrobing of Draupadi, Draupadi was dragged into the assembly by her hair, and the Kauravas, they were trying to rip off her sari. So nobody was saying to Draupadi, just don't hate the sinner, just hate the sin. And Prabhupada condemns Grandfather Bhishma Dev for remaining silent at that time. So there's so many instances. Another really interesting instance with Draupadi is when the Pandavas and Draupadi, this is in their exile, the year they spent incognito in the kingdom of Matsya. And so there was one general there who was very lusty and was trying to, entice Draupadi, and he was doing all sorts of things.
Ruchaka.
She was dismissive. She didn't want to get involved in anything. And he got very angry, and he threw her to the ground and kicked her. And so Draupadi went back that night and told her husband, Bhima. So Bhima, the next night, he pummeled that demon to death.
he turned him into a hamburger.
He pummeled him, and he was unrecognizable after Bhima got through with him. But the thing is this: there are different moods for different elements in society. For instance, a devotee, a Brahmin, if they are, if somebody says something or does something to them, the Brahmin, they might be very gentle, they be tolerant, they'll be forgiving, but that's not the mood of a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya has to maintain order in society. So the mood of a Brahmin is going to be a little different, and even in the Brahminical community. So if some Brahmin is, or if for instance, if I'm kind of like somebody says something nasty or does something nasty, for myself, I can be forgiving. But if I see that same person doing something to another devotee or another Brahmin, then you have to respond. If you don't respond, then you're implicated in this demented activity. So
you are accessory to this crime.
So
Martin
that's
Luther King
is
said the same
accessory.
thing. He said that if you're silent, then you're complicit.
Yeah.
so that's my 2 cents.
That's wonderful.
And the thing is, whenever devotees make statements, like I read a little bit of your comments, the thing is that the statements have to be reinforced by examples in the Shastra. in the Mahabharata or the Srimad Bhagavatam or by discussions by Prabhupada. Actually, there's one thing that Prabhupada says. Let me see. Let me just take a moment here.
You can share it also if you want.
This is in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and so this is in the 19th verse, and Prabhupada is talking or the verse is Krishna is talking about. Well, we don't really slay anybody, and we're not slain, and neither do we slay anybody. So that's a broad philosophical concept. But in the purport, Prabhupada says, killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the laws of the state as well as by the laws of the Lord. So here, this attack by Putin on Ukraine, I mean, the devotees, many devotees have died, but the more broader principle is that this is an attack on innocent men, women, and children who are not participating in the battle. And this is a totally adharmic activity, and a activity of dharma that you can defend. You have a right to defend yourself if you're attacked or if your property is attacked. So those who are in the Ukraine who are defending themselves, they are performing an activity based on the principles of dharma. And those outside who are attacking, then this is an adharmic activity because they're killing defenseless men, women, and children who are not involved in the conflict.
You know that verse that you cited about the killer's not slain, but only thinks he's slain? One of my favorite authors before I became a devotee was Ralph Waldo Emerson. He wrote a poem about that verse. It's called Brahma. The red slayer thinks he's slain, the slayer thinks, but he knows not well the ways I keep and pass and turn again. It's a really nice little poem. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, Mataji, maybe you want to add something?
Yeah, so I just I'm thinking on it on the perspective of in Modi's position. I mean, well, let's be clear. Putin, along with being a war criminal, is also the country has made a huge push towards national Christianity, the same kind of thing we're having here with the Trump dictatorship. So
it's called Hindutva, isn't it?
Hindutva, which is...
Yeah, it's a kind of like a Hindu Christian nationalism. Is that correct, Sankirtan? He's got his own party. It's the Bharatiya, starts with a J.
You're talking party. About Modi?
Modi is trying to nationalize everything.
I don't know anything about Hindu politics.
That's kind of what I was going towards, is that here's Modi, who's leaning towards the same types of Hindu nationalism, and as we know, there's a lot of oppression within Islamic persons in India, and we can't pretend that doesn't exist. As devotees, we can't, because we also the teachings don't say to disregard other faiths. Even Radhanath, in his book, he embraced all the people that he met, different faiths, when he traveled everywhere. So my thing is, I guess my point is, I mean, I suppose it's kind of like one type of nationalist presenting an offering to another nationalist, and in I don't know, I guess in Modi's, I'm trying to say, maybe in his the idea of the presentation, what else would he present, quote unquote, as a meaningful gift of his own faith, other than, of course, a Bhagavad Gita? Will Putin read it? Absolutely not. Would Putin be able to benefit and put those lessons into his life? Absolutely not, because inherently he is demonic. He is a destroyer. He is a he's just the same as the nationalist we have destroying America right now, who's Trump. It's the same idea. It's the same type of thinking. but in lieu of handing him a Bhagavad Gita, you know, it's a gesture of his faith. And is Putin worthy of receiving it? Well, he's not worthy anything than being tried as a war criminal. But at the same time, what would Modi's, I don't know what his alternative would be. I think ISKCON posted it. I think it's definitely arguable. I think it has mixed reaction. I think they just put it up there because I think they want to start conversation, which it's doing, which I think is good, because it makes us think about also the Vaishnavas lost. I mean, I've been watching it. This war's going on for like 3 years. They bombed the hospital. They killed pregnant women. Like, I saw it, like everybody else. It was abysmal. They captured entire families, children included, bound them and shot them in the heads. Like, they found the bodies. It was absolutely incredulous.
50,000 children have been kidnapped and ripped away
Right,
from their parents.
and that's exactly what the Germans did with the Polish kids. It's this, everyone's using the same playbook of the fascism of the last century. They're doing the same things, whether it's Trump or Putin or Netanyahu's another one. He needs to be rounded up as well. But we have these. I don't know. I guess my question would be, the purpose for them posting maybe is to have these dialogues, and if that's the case, okay. But it should not be posted in terms of, well, isn't this nice? Look how wonderful. Absolutely not. That's not my feeling about it.
Well, the only reason they're having this dialogue to begin with is because Putin wants India's oil, or vice versa. I'm not sure which one.
Vice versa.
It's vice versa.
India wants Russian oil.
India wants Russian oil, and despite the sanctions, they're going ahead and taking that oil and funding their war machine by doing that.
Right, and also I have a friend that I met when Rishikesh. My friend Vishal just said that also Russia has extended very generous visas to Indians now in Russia. So they're looking at to utilize the Indian labor force, and a lot of
And
Indians.
also they cheat them into signing contracts and going to war. More than 30 Indians were cheated, and they were forced to go to war. Yeah.
They must not have read the fine print.
Yeah.
Well, there was the American man who moved his entire family over there, thinking, "Oh boy, isn't Russia great? And I'll never have to go on the front lines." They put him on the front lines. Boom, he was like dead instantly. There was that story too. So, yeah, I mean, Putin's. We know he's as much of a liar as Trump. Like, they're all demonic. We're in like some heightened Kali Yuga with all demonic leadership right now. It's worse than ever. I mean, well, except in the last 100 years ago or so, this happened. So yeah.
The difference now is that, just like you're talking about the references to the Third Reich, they put all these refugees, these migrants, dumped them into Poland, and they started a war. But that might not fly in America right now. I mean, they might not be able to. The military might not go along with that. But Timothy Snyder, he was saying that he might try to start something within the United States, just to develop some kind of instability, so he can crack down even more and stop the election in the midterm elections. Because even Steve Bannon, his personal advisor, he said that if they win the midterm, if the Democrats win the midterms, we're all going to jail. He admitted that.
Okay, so devotees, getting back to the argument, we should hate the sin, not the sinner. I would like just to mention a couple of my counter arguments. So first of all, such position erases morality, because a sin does not exist by itself. A war crime or abuse of a child is a deliberate action of a person. You cannot meaningfully hate mass murder or child abuse without morally condemning the person who committed it. So to pretend that these two can be separated, it's practically impossible. So this is the first point, that the sin always goes together with the sinner. You cannot, or the sinful act is always committed by a person, and you cannot, tear them apart. The other point is that it trivializes the gravity of certain crimes. So partly this idea is right, but it works for our actions that that do not represent violence towards other people. So, for example, somebody gets angry, emotional, or laziness, or dishonesty, or some moral failings, daily moral failings. Everyone is prone, to this, to such kind of actions, and nobody can say that I don't get angry, or I don't feel emotional, or I always behave myself, in an exemplary way. So these types of actions, we can identify them as sort of sins, and not place too much blame or hate on this person. But as soon as the line is crossed and a violence is committed towards other person, so it does not make any moral sense for genocide, for torture, for child rape, for mass killing of civilians. This is a totally different type of action. So it's a total different type of sin. And you cannot, state that we shouldn't hate this sinner, this criminal, this child abuser, and so on. So in case of some small mistakes, in case of some actions that do not represent violence against other person, we can be we can be merciful, indeed. Who isn't without a sin, like Jesus Christ said, yes? But this does not relate to actions when violence is committed, because this is the red line.
I just wanted to add one thing. It's not only just violence that is prohibited, though. I mean, Lord Balaram made the example of when the disciple of Vyasadeva, he was of a highly elevated personality, Rishabdev, and he was giving class in the forest of Namasharanya, and when Balaram walked in the assembly, everybody stood up, except for Maharshan Sutta. And Balaram, he is a supreme personality of Godhead, and he was figuring out, like, person is, he's claiming to be a religious person, but he's not really acknowledging the source of religion, who is the Supreme Lord. So he said, my advent here on this planet is to kill all these miscreants who claim to be religious, but are not. And so he took a blade of grass and he touched his Maharshan Sutta, who is a disciple of Vyasadeva, and killed him. And so that was an offense to Lord Balaram. So we have to actually see whatever it is, it's a sin or not a sin, on the basis of the viewpoint of the Supreme, based on Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, not on our own feelings or opinions of ourselves or anybody else. We have to look at it from a 30,000 viewpoint.
And what kind of sin, what it is, to kill a Vaishnava? It's not even a sin, it's Vaishnava Paratha of highest, of highest degree, Well,
Balaram actually atoned for that. He was instructed, he killed a Vaishnava. Obviously, Maharshan Sutta was a Vaishnava. And the sages instructed him to undergo some atonement, which he gladly did. But you know, he can do whatever he wants. You know, he's the supreme. There's nothing that can stop him. So he is completely independent of any kind of human morality or laws, because he's the author of the laws. Vedanta vet Vedakrit eva chaham. I am the author of the Vedas, the knower of the Vedas. So we depend on him for our moral conclusions and how to act in this world. But it's definitely, I would say it's a very severe offense to kill Vaishnavas and destroy temples. You can't look at
So
that.
the third point, that such a statement becomes a tool of spiritual bypassing, because people often use this line to avoid responsibility to condemn evil. They use this line to look spiritual by refusing to make judgments. They pretend neutrality is equal to compassion, but in reality, it's a way to escape, moral responsibility. Because if we shouldn't hate the sinner, it means I don't need to condemn child abuser or a criminal or killer or Vaishnava, and I don't need to do anything about it.
What is that term? I've heard that term before, spiritual bypassing. That's a thing. I think it's even in the dictionary, isn't it? It's become a term. Spiritual bypassing. It's like, can you define that?
Well, somewhere it's just that I've heard this term, and another important point is that it also invalidates the victims, because when people say we don't hate the sinner, victims hear that your suffering doesn't matter. I'm too spiritual to take sides. It's cruel, and it's victims of aggression, of abuse, they don't need some kind of neutral position, or that we don't object against your aggressor. They need society to clearly condemn their abuser.
I just looked it up here, and the AI overview says spiritual bypassing is using spiritual ideas, practice, or platitudes to avoid uncomfortable emotions, unresolved psychological wounds, or difficult life realities, acting as a defense mechanism to bypass true growth and integration. I've seen a lot of devotees who say, this politics, this is just all BS. All this war talk and this and that, there's just demons fighting with each other. We don't even have to think of it. We just have to involve ourselves in chanting Hare Krishna and be in our little bhajan kutir forever, and everything will be nice.
That's why Prabhupada, once in the last year of his life, in 1977 when he was here, he wanted to establish the Varnashram system. And so there has to be some standards, some rules and regulations in human society. And that's what the Varnashram system is meant for. So we can have a organized civil society to function in. And so Prabhupada says there are always rogues and thieves in human society. And as soon as we, as a weak government, is unable to execute its duties, these rogues and thieves come out to do their business. Thus, the entire society becomes a hell unfit for gentlemen to live in. So that these rogues and thieves, when they recognize a weak society, just like here in the U.S., we're being besieged by rogues and thieves within the society. And they recognize the weak elements, and they're utilizing the weak elements in the Constitution for their own benefit. But in the Ukraine, the problem is from the outside, that the Ukraine has become weak. When Russia the Soviet Union was dismantled, Ukraine still had a good arsenal of nuclear weapons, but they gave those up with a promise that no one would attack them. So that's in the early 1990s. They had a very formidable arsenal. And so they wanted actually to join the NATO to strengthen their position. But as Prabhupada says, that as soon as a weak government is unable to execute its duties, the rogues and thieves come out and do their business. So
That happened.
in the Ukraine, we have an example of the rogues and thieves coming into a country. And in the United States, we have an example of the rogues and thieves emerging from within the country itself. So we have to make this information available so that people can learn to do the right thing and support the right cause.
That happened when the rogues and thieves come out. That happened right after they killed Vena. In way back when. This was millions of years ago. And the Brahmins actually killed Vena because he was such a horrible leader. He said
He was a rogue himself.
He was a rogue that he said, you Brahmins shouldn't do any sacrifice. You should give all sacrifices to me. And so he wouldn't listen to him even though they tried to talk to him. And so they killed him with mere sound vibration. But then all the rogues and thieves started coming out of the woodwork, and they thought to themselves, well, even though Brahmanas usually don't get involved in material things and in politics and things like that, if this population is suffering, then they have to get involved. Otherwise, all of their Brahmatajas, their spiritual potency, will run out just like water runs out of a cracked pot. So they decided to take his body, the Vena's body, and churn it. Don't ask me what that means because that's way above my pay grade. And they created Martyr Prithu and his wife, who was an incarnation of God. We don't have those kind of Brahmanas nowadays.
Well, what would be the arm, the weapon that we have today? Remember, on our last meeting, we determined what is our today's weapon.
Sankirtan.
Well,
Harinam.
Dharma.
Or,
Dharma
sorry,
is chanting
Sankirtana
of the
Prabhu.
holy names.
Plus, yes, and what is the last pillar? Truthfulness.
Right.
So when we speak out the truth, that's how today we are fighting demons. Because you see, demons, they make a whole propaganda campaign with their lies. So today we fight demons with speaking the truth.
Yeah, of course, when Prabhupada said that in the Kali Yuga, when you speak lies, people will like you. And if you speak the truth, they'll beat you with sticks. So that's the difference in this age,
And one more interesting argument that came up during this discussion about we don't hate the sinner. Devotees are in some way they're very afraid of the term anger or hatred, because they have this idea that devotees shouldn't feel anger in any case. But there is such a term as righteous anger. And righteous anger, actually, it's a normal moral reaction to adharma. Righteous anger, it's a built-in mechanism in our psychology, in our, we can say, in our soul. It's a response to adharma, to danger. So we feel righteous anger towards, for example, a child abuser because he is danger to children, right? We feel righteous anger towards a war criminal because he destroys lives, he destroys countries, and that's also danger for people. So it was a very interesting idea, that righteous anger is a built-in mechanism of signaling danger for the society or for any person. And
Krishna invoked Arjuna's anger.
Yeah.
And also Hanuman. Hanuman was very angry, and he set the whole town of Lanka on fire with his tail. Jumped from building to building.
Have a misconception that since we're spiritualists, we shouldn't be involved in any affairs in the material world. But Prabhupada says in the 3rd canto, let me read it to you. If you give up all thought of the world situation, unrighteousness would flourish. For men who hanker only after money would be unopposed. Such miscreants would attack, and the world would perish.
That is so happening right now.
So Prabhupada's conclusion is that we have to be involved in one way or another. And, and Prabhupada, of course, his conclusion, let me see here. He says elsewhere, I think in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this Krishna consciousness movement is not a sentimental religious movement. It is a movement for the reformation of all the anomalies of human society. So, in one way or another, devotees have to be involved in the worldly affairs to help people understand what is dharma and what is adharma. We have to help people distinguish between good activities and horrible activities meant to destroy the world.
That if you could actually, Zoe asked the question, maybe you could post the links to those particular arguments in the comments section, because that would be helpful. But Prabhupada also gave another example of actually how, devotees, even though they're just like somebody like Raghunath.
Contact me on Facebook under my legal name that's appearing here, Andy Frankel. I'll provide some links for you.
Like he was talking about like somebody like Raghunath Das Goswami, who was totally spiritual, and yet his family was in a situation where he had to act diplomatically and deal with the material world. And Prabhupada said that a devotee cannot be completely aloof. They have to be expert in dealing with these different situations. So when it's necessary, a devotee can act within, in certain circumstances, based on the necessity where Krishna calls you to act. So it's not that we're completely aloof and we don't, we're somewhere in the clouds, like the demigods looking down on earth, We can, if it starts raining, we have to cover our heads, that's another example Prabhupada gave, It's not that we're completely apart from this material world. We have certain duties that we have to perform. If somebody's going to walk off the roof, you try to stop them. You have to take compassion. That's why I really appreciate the Christians who are actually going out and motivating all of their churches and synagogues, and they're rallying to help all these immigrants that are being tortured and persecuted in this country. And I don't see where ISKCON is doing that. They're posting pictures of Putin and Modi, but I don't see them going to a Broadview facility in Chicago and getting shot in the head with pepper balls or tear gassed. I don't see that happening at all. Yeah. And in fact, I tried to post, when Ziva and I went down to No Kings, I tried to post it in that website, Progressive Vaishnavism, and they wouldn't even authorize it. So there's some kind of, it is spiritual bypassing in that we don't want to deal with these things. We just have our own business, and it's too complicated. That's why they're getting rid of democracy in this country, because democracy is messy. They want to get rid of it. They say, just, this dear leader, just you take care of it. We'll just, enjoy sense gratification. You can do everything. But then the citizens lose their rights to their rights to speech, their rights to redress their grievances. They lose their media, they lose their representation, they lose everything. That's what happens in an authoritarian government. And it's Devarita Swami said that back in 2015 in his book, Hiding in Unnatural Happiness, that after the Russian wall came down, the German wall, whatever, the Great Wall, and all these things were happening, everybody just thought, oh, democracy is spreading. But, time has a way of reversing that. And he said authoritarianism and democracy is waning. And he gave several references in that book that was written 10 years ago. And so he was pretty prescient in that way as well, because democracy is fading all over the world, not only in this country and in places like Hungary and Turkey, but also in European countries. They're taking over. Le Pen in France, and Russia and Germany has its own Nazi and neo-Nazi movement that Musk goes there and tries to promote. It's terrible.
Yeah. So to sum up this argument point, so the righteous anger towards war criminal or child abusers is healthy, natural, and ethically necessary. And this phrase that we should hate the sin, not the sinner, it becomes a pseudo-spiritual weapon to delegitimize moral outrage. So in summary, it becomes wrong when dealing with war criminals, child abusers, or serious law offenders, because, first of all, it denies personal responsibility, because if we don't hate the sinner, he is not responsible, right? It trivializes adharma, violence, abuse, aggression. It protects offenders at the expense of victims. And it is logically meaningless because sins don't exist without sinners. And it blocks righteous moral judgment and understanding of what is dharma and what is adharma. So when we talk about small moral failings, it can be applied. But for serious violent acts, it's a moral cowardice and complicit ignorance when devotees or religious people use this phrase to justify adharma, to justify crime, abuse, aggression. So that's the end of the first argument.
My Ukrainian book mentor, I won't even mention his name because he's from Ukraine and I don't want to point him out, but he said, he works for the BBT, but he said, what we are sorely missing in ISKCON is some senior people expressing a moral and honest stance. Nothing is more toxic than religionists and spiritualists exhibiting just silence or even support for an obvious and dangerous immorality and lie.
Okay, should we get to Jagai Mathai analogy, devotees? So there was also this argument that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they showed the mercy to Jagai and Mathai, and how come devotees shouldn't show the same mercy to Demon Putler? So what would you answer to this argument?
First of all, I love that nickname, Putler. It's like combination of Hitler and Putin. And my friend, who is also kind of like a liberally minded devotee, he would refuse to call Tulsi Gabbard Tulsi. He calls her Tulski, like the end of a Russian name, Tulski Grabadollar. Grabadollar. Because, she is like you can't mention those two personalities because she's completely destroying all of our defenses. she's in charge of the national intelligence, and she's like firing everybody that's like involved in that, and completely destroying that whole thing in order to make us weak, so that we can become overtaken by an authoritarian government. She's an apologist for Putin and that guy from Syria. What was his name?
Assad.
Assad, yeah, a total apologist. So that's not the kind of people you want. It's like a kakistocracy. A kakistocracy is just a government that's headed by agencies that are leaders, whose leadership is the most corrupt, the most abominable, the worst kind of people, and that are available, because they want to destroy the whole infrastructure of. And the Timothy Snyder is like a very famous author on the topic of authoritarianism. He said he's not really that much. He moved to Canada, by the way, which is telling in and of itself. I think his wife made him move because they have kids. But he was a Yale University professor, historian, and he said he's not so much worried about the whole America becoming an authoritarian state like Russia. He's worried that with these incompetent fools that are destroying the government, that the whole of America is just going to be broken apart and destroyed, irreparably. And
Well, America, actually, the Vedic culture is the first culture that was established based on principles, the principles of Dharma. And so since the Kali Yuga began over the last couple of 1,000 years, there were kings who were governing based on their own whims. And, when Vena was around, then the Brahmins could dispose of him. But now in the Kali Yuga, all of these rogues and thieves have become so more powerful. But the United States, once again, was the first country that was established on principles. And so that makes it very closely aligned with Sanatana Dharma. And the founding fathers didn't want anybody being worshipped. They didn't want a leader being worshipped by the general population. Their whole thing was based on the principles that are embedded in the Constitution.
not like George III, but it's like the whole idea of what is the remedy then? Since we don't have these brahmanas, if the government becomes a criminal and they disobey the Constitution and all these principles of law that are actually kind of divine, the Constitution says all people are created equal, they're kind of like divine sentiments when you actually look at it.
They are.
And so when the government becomes a criminal, who becomes the police? Since there's no brahmanas, who becomes the police? The people. The people become the police.
Well, they should, but
But unfortunately, nobody cares. They're just too busy in their sense gratification, and they don't want to be bothered. But millions of people rose up, like on August 18th, 7 million people nationwide in 2,500 cities all across the United States said, we don't want any kings. We don't want another George III. And so people are standing up, and I have great faith in the young people of this country because they're like really freaking out right now because they don't want to live in a country that's completely lawless, and also they don't have any future as far as the economy goes. It's very difficult for a young couple to get a house or even maintain rent or buy a car or anything. That it's becoming an economic. Snyder also said that he said this before the election. He said if Trump and Vance take power, there'll be lawlessness. And also there'll be a series of economic crises. So anyway.
Okay, so getting back to Jagai Madhai argument, first of all, when I was compiling replies, I read again in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains that actually Jagai and Madhai, they were Brahmins. they were from a family of Brahmins, and in the beginning they were normal Brahmins, but due to some bad association, they started drinking and so on. I didn't know this detail about Jagai and Madhai. I always thought they were some, bandits, criminals. But actually, he said they were from a family of Brahmins, and even conducting all these sinful activities, they still, to some extent, they held to Brahminical principles. They didn't want to work for anyone, in some sort of way.
But
Yeah.
I think they were engaged following or executing the orders of Chankazi. And so they're like the ICE, these guys were criminals on one hand, but they were also executing the orders of the governor. And so they were doubly, just doubly vicious. Prabhupada talked about that now the society is imposed by vicious people. So we have to be very diligent and careful. But please make your point about Jagai and Madhai. I just want to inject that.
Okay, so the first point is, of course, that they didn't kill en masse devotees, like Demon Putler. The second point is that actually Madhyama does not preach to demons. Srimad Bhagavatam 8:22-16, because preaching to demons, to serious Vaishnava offenders, criminals who kill devotees, is actually is the 9th offense of the holy name. And again, if some devotee doesn't feel indignation and righteous anger against killer of devotees, if he thinks more about the aggressor, it's again, I just cannot understand it. How come devotees, instead of thinking about the Vaishnavas who this criminal killed, feeling righteous anger, they think about how their killer is getting mercy. How wonderful. So if a devotee doesn't feel such indignation, he doesn't. He has nothing to do in the society of devotees. Indifference to aggression against Vaishnavas, I would say that it's not only a sign of ignorance, but it's a sign of demonic nature. Demons, they feel indifferent if somebody is getting killed, and especially if it's devotees. But if devotees feel indifferent towards killing of other devotees, are they really devotees, or they're simply ignorant? That's a big question. Yeah, so we cannot compare Jagai and Madhai to Demon Putler. Again, because Jagai and Madhai, they didn't kill in mass devotees. And again, it was Lord Nityananda who preached to them, right? It wasn't, some regular devotee. So Lord Nityananda, maybe he has this ability and this maybe right, but we as devotees, we should understand that protecting devotees, serving devotees, taking care of devotees, it means that also we feel righteous anger if somebody aggresses devotees, right? Because if we don't feel any indignation, all these talks about serving devotees, I am dasa dasa anudasa, and so on, care for devotees. The most important thing in spiritual practice is not to make Vaishnava offenses to Vaishnavas, but how can in this case we be indifferent to the fact that they are being aggressed and killed? It's something doesn't stick here.
Prabhupada was saying, as far as like, he made the reference to like if we had a nation of devotees. He said if you attack one hair on one of the heads of the devotees, there'll be a fight.
Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. But instead, you see, we have on ISKCON news photo of a killer who killed more than 50 devotees and bombed 4 temples. Where is Vaishnava care? Where is the basic respect? Even if we don't talk about some spiritual standards of caring for devotees, where is religious principle that we don't approve of some aggression towards our members of our religious community? And moreover, it's not even a civilized, it's not even level of a civilized person, because there is spiritual, religious, and civilized, right? Civilized, it can be an atheist. Atheist can be also in some way a civilized person who only, who doesn't violate the law, who is more or less in the mode of goodness. At least he tries to get to the mode of goodness. But even on the level of a civilized person, if devotees are family, how can you post a photo of your family member killer on your website?
It seems like as far as devotee care is concerned, I was like the day after the election, I was on a Zoom broadcast. I used to attend a Bhakti Center Zoom broadcast, and there was the ISKCON head. There wasn't anybody to give class that day, and so the head of ISKCON devotee care was giving class, stepping in and giving class. He lives in New York City, and the day after the election, I couldn't believe it, because the fact that he won wasn't even in my mind. I didn't even want to contemplate it. So it was worse than the biggest catastrophe, the fact that this criminal was elected again. And so I needed to be talked down from a ledge. And so I asked a question. I had written something, and I said, Prabhupada established this Krishna consciousness here and this, in New York City. And he had the idea of America being the beacon of hope for the rest of the world. And now America has become a pariah in the world. Nobody follows us. Nobody even gives us any intelligence anymore. And so, it seems like this is a very serious situation, and America is no longer the standard by which, or the tool that Prabhupada could use as far as everybody following the world, because nobody follows America anymore. It's up to the individual devotees. And so when I was in the middle of my rant, wanting to be talked down from my ledge, this head of devotee care, he said, "This isn't the right place to talk about these things right here. We can do this in some other place, And he cut me off, and they went on to other subjects. And I asked Adi Purusha, who's been serving out in Tompkins Square Park, he's the one who kind of talked me into attending the morning programs every day. And I asked him, what can I do? I don't feel welcome here. I don't feel like I can say anything without being shot down. And he said, well, just start your own Zoom. And so that's what I'm doing here. Today is working out very well for me, because I can talk whatever I want, and I'm not going to be cut off and say, well, you can't say those things, that's too political or whatever,
One thing about Putin getting a Bhagavad Gita, in one sense, I can understand your point, Prabhu, but on another sense, Chaitanya, he's saying to distribute this Krishna consciousness, don't consider who is fit or who is unfit. Don't consider if it's the right place or the wrong place, or the right time or the wrong time. Just distribute this Krishna consciousness to anyone and everyone.
That's another one of your talking points, is it not? That's somebody said that to you, Lobomir, and you responded to that, correct?
Well, yes, again, by quoting, well, again, he did not say to give it to everyone, in all circumstances. Because, for example, again, if we are talking about a criminal who kills Vaishnavas, it's a demon. And Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 1867, what did he tell Arjuna? Do not speak this knowledge to the envious, to demons, right? Srimad Bhagavatam 11:246. Madhyama Bhakta avoids asuras. He avoids demons. He doesn't preach to demons because he understands that it will be, they will use this knowledge to justify their crimes, right? Just like Kamsa. Do you remember how Kamsa was justifying his killing of Devaki's children? He was saying it's just karma, it's their souls, you cannot kill them, and so on. Plus, we have the ninth offense of the holy name. Teaching the holy name to the faithless is an offense. Who is faithless? Faithless is a demon. Demon. It's a demon who kills devotees. Do you think he doesn't know what happens in Ukraine? Do you think he doesn't know that, children, women, elderly are being killed? He knows it very well, and he continues this terror. Moreover, Demon Putler, with his war, he bombs even Russian Orthodox churches in Ukraine. He's a demon, he doesn't care even about the churches of his own Russian Orthodox church. Can you imagine? So he is obviously a faithless demon, asura, and according to Shastra, according to Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and again the ninth offense, such people, such demons, they shouldn't be preached, they shouldn't be given access to spiritual knowledge.
Well, to speak of spiritual knowledge, they shouldn't even be given any kind of recognition. Yeah. I mean, he's giving him a valuable gift. It's like throwing pearls before swine. And, Trump did the same thing to Putin. He flew him to our own Air Force base in Alaska and had the soldiers, American soldiers, roll out the red carpet for Putler.
For a war criminal.
And that is not within the wheelhouse of American soldiers to do that. But he ordered them to. And so now, several several veteran representatives put out a video of if you're told to do something like this illegal, you shouldn't do it because that's against the UCMJ or whatever they call it, the law book for warfare. You shouldn't try to carry out an illegal order. It's against the law. You can't do it. It's against the UCMJ. And so Trump said all these people that are put this video together, they should be killed. They're treasonous. And so they're just asking everybody, all the veterans or the active service duty members, to obey the law and not disobey the law. And for that, now, like Alicia Schlatkin, some of these veterans, she was a CIA analyst, they're highly intelligent representatives. And so it's nowhere in American history has a president attacked our own representatives and called on them to be killed. It's a form of stochastic terrorism. You know what that is? Stochastic terrorism is it's a numbers game. If you just suppress, you call in outrage, you against a certain personality you don't like, and then your followers, and maybe if they're a little bit crazy, they'll actually do it. And so they'll carry out, you think, with plausible deniability that I didn't ever tell them to do that, But you put it out there enough times, and somebody's going to do it.
Those elected officials were only quoting a plaque that hangs on the walls in West Point.
I know it's totally.
All soldiers are taught to not follow any illegal orders.
Exactly.
Another issue here, we can slightly touch the issue of preaching by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's sannyasis in Nazi Germany, right? So another thing here with why it's wrong, and devotees don't understand the danger of Demon Putler getting Bhagavad Gita. The danger is that he may use it to justify his criminal war. And now imagine what would happen to the image of Bhagavad Gita if war criminal would started quoting this scripture publicly in order to justify his war of terror and aggression.
Himmler was a big
Yeah,
fan.
it would be the same thing as with swastika, with the term Aryan, right? Now today, if you tell somebody, do you want to become an Aryan? They will instantly associate this term with fascist, with Nazi image. They don't associate it with Vedic culture. So the same thing can easily happen to Bhagavad Gita in the hands of a demon. He may use it, to justify his crimes.
There's a saying for that. It's called different shloks for different folks.
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So, do you want to wrap this up and maybe continue another day? I know,
sure.
I know you're busy, Sankirtan Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining us. All of your points were just spot on, as far as your references to, like law and dharma and the Mahabharata. And it's such a refreshing thing to hear. We have to hear it over and over again. Otherwise, if we don't learn from history, actually the Mahabharata and the Ramayana are just histories, like the Puranas actually means history, right? So if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat it.
The Bhagavatam identifies itself as itihasa, means that which happened.
Oh, yeah.
So
Thank you very much. One last thing, devotees. I'm not going to share my screen and show it to you, but already on the second day of Demon Putler's visit to India, already Russian state TV, they have this propaganda show with some propaganda follower of Goebbels.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they already showed images of him getting Bhagavad Gita, and they already, do you know what they said on Russian state TV? They said that Modi gave Bhagavad Gita, which is which tells about victorious war, as a sign that our president will be victorious in his war. Do you understand?
What a
So
warped
they
mentality.
already are using it, to promote. To promote, to use it in their advantage. So actually, they're offending Bhagavad Gita with this.
It reminds
So
me
thank-
that it reminds me of that that song by Bob Dylan called "Idiot Wind." He said, "I can't feel you anymore. I can't even touch the books you've read. Every time I crawl past your door, I was wishing I was somebody else instead." It's like, if you give the somebody like that your sacred book, just like in the video or in that AI developed, his hands are dripping with blood and it's dripping all over the Gita itself. It's actually offensive. It shouldn't be in the same. He shouldn't even have access to that book. What to speak of like giving it to him in a public setting and then ISKCON broadcasting it all over the world, and then everybody's saying, "Oh, isn't that nice?" He's going to be a devotee. Even if you touch this book. You know, I have experience in my own life bringing back Prabhupada's books from the university library, and I felt like I was just carrying an essence in my arm. It was weird. Felt like I was carrying like some kind of extraordinary presence in my arm. Not books, but I mean, you have to be open to that kind of thing. You have to be like, Krishna has to give you the mercy. It's not that everybody that touches a book is automatically becoming free from all their sins. Krishna, it's up to Krishna, so it doesn't apply. It's not like a blanket statement that you can apply to every single person on the planet. Lord Chaitanya himself tried to rein in one of his personal servants, and he just ran off to some gypsies. So if Lord Chaitanya himself can't control you, you have to be qualified yourself in order to receive Krishna's mercy, and then Krishna has to agree to give it to you. It's not up to you, and it's not up to like somebody touching physically a book, even though those books do have power. I have personal experience of it.
So we will maybe start with this question: touching Bhagavad Gita with hands full of blood, does it count as Sukriti or Aparadha?
Right, exactly. That's another one of your points, right, in the outline.
Started, yeah.
But I think no matter what he was given, you know, just as Lubomir said, but the state, you know, it's a propaganda machine. They're gonna turn it into whatever they want it, whatever they need it to be. You know, whether he handed him a copy of the Bhagavad Gita or a Kama Sutra, they're gonna use it for like whatever they deem that's gonna fit their narrative, no matter what.
That's what it says in the Gita. It says that religion is irreligion, irreligion is religion. And Dylan said the same thing in that same song. He said, now everything's a little upside down. A matter of fact, the wheels have stopped. What's good is bad. What's bad is good. You'll find out when you're on the top. You're on the bottom. So they turn everything around, and it's just like the opposite of what it is. You know, religion is considered irreligion, and irreligion is considered religion. And they use those talking points. They quote the scripture. I mean, you know, like a Ku Klux Klan, a very religious organization. They were, you know, using crosses and Vedic imagery. Mm-hmm. And I've always said myself, I kind of like coined this. There's a special place in hell for anyone who uses the Word of God or his imagery or his person to divide people and conquer people and use it for their own personal aggrandizement or agenda. Special place in hell for them.
Christianity's been doing it for a long time, just saying, you know.
Yeah, for
sure.
We
had the Crusades, we had the Inquisition.
The Crusades. Well, this,
you know, I mean,
it's
historically, this has gone on for like
Whiskey Pete Hegseth, the guy that's in charge of the Department of Defense now. He has Crusade sayings tattooed on his body. He's a big fan of the Crusades, and he says we should attack the enemy within America.
Sure.
And they're getting ready to do that. And they're going to foment some kind of a thing where they'll be able to crack down even more. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yep.
Already, the ICE raids here in this city, in Pittsburgh, last year in 2024 was like 275. This year it's like 900. And they haven't even invaded and occupied yet, like they have in Portland and in D.C. and in Chicago. You know, it's coming. These guys are coming because they've got an unlimited budget. And they're going to try to make it so that it's normal to see tanks on the streets. And so people will say it's just a day ending in Y, you know, so it's just like an everyday appearance. And they'll think it's just, they'll accept it like, you know, oh, he's keeping law and order. It's all about law and order. It's not. It's about coercion, and it's about intimidation and fascism, basically. So the people will be afraid to actually speak their mind.
So as we end up, Lubomir, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I would like just to thank you, you know, for your for your care for devotees in Ukraine, you know, who suffer, who have to experience the bombings every day. recently, a couple of months ago, I was in Odessa, and for a couple of days, and I felt on myself, what it's like when you are, getting ready to go to sleep, and the siren starts, and you have to decide whether you go to, bomb shelter, or you go to the corridor, and it's a state of terror, this uncertainty that this rocket, bomb, or shahed may, bomb your apartment or house, and it's very, I would like again to thank you for your compassion, for your care towards Ukrainian devotees, that you support them, and decided to join this talk that is obviously very, very important. And again, it's heartbreaking for devotees in Ukraine, to see the photo of this criminal who terrorizes them, who kills their family members, their husbands, their brothers, sons, their good friends,
Kidnapping
and members of their yatra, and all of a sudden the photo is on ISKCON website, and it's like,
well, here's the thing, like the people that really care, I mean, they're trying to make propaganda that compassion is not even worthy nowadays. The compassion is a weakness, but compassion is what holds a society together. And during the during the World War II, when they had the Japanese internment camps, hardly anybody spoke out against these internment camps. Rachel Maddow's got a podcast on that now. It's called the Burn Order. And you have to learn from those kind of things. But nobody really cared back then. And can you imagine how all these... They're American citizens, these Japanese people that were rounded up and put in these concentration camps. And people didn't seem to care. So if somebody cares, then that's like a light of hope. If you place a little candle inside a stadium with 77,000 people, you can see that candle in the middle of the field. So if there's one person who cares, that is very, very valuable. And so I think that's the lesson we can learn from all of these other traditions. We have to have interfaith dialogue with all of these people that are actually doing something, and not just like waiting to see what happens. If you wait to see what happens, it's like that Niedermüller saying, first they came for the this, that, and the other thing, and I wasn't this or that, and so I didn't care. And then they came for me, and then there was nobody to protect me anymore. So that's our situation. We have to be compassionate to our brothers and sisters. Otherwise, it's kind of a sociopathic mindset. We don't care about anybody but ourselves. So we have to care about our brothers and sisters.
Mentality of neophyte Kanishka.
Right. You only care about the deities, and you don't... Yeah. Just like that first opening statement you talked about, if you worship my devotees better, Krishna even goes further than that. He said, you have to worship Krishna in every single living entity's body. That is the best way to actually worship me. He says that in the 11th canto.
Okay.
So
thank you very much, devotees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Lubomir. Thank you, Shug.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.